Well, good to be here with you on the fastest growing university in the state of Utah. And are we the largest now, UVU? So here at the #1 place. So good to be here with you. As mentioned, my problem and your problem as entrepreneurs, I can tell you already, is you'll have career ADD. And every few years you'll want to try your hand at something different. And so I was a history major at the University of Utah and then an MBA there, and have had fun being an armchair historian. I was on the state history board for 8 years. Governor Huntsman appointed me, and have the author of 12 published books. I've been a milkman, an author, a mayor, and I'm a banker. But all through that, I've been dealing with small businesses and entrepreneurship, and so it's really kind of a good spot I'm at right now, and I think we'll have a fun discussion today. I'm going to share a few things with you, and then we'll certainly have plenty of time for questions. And as Mark mentioned, one of our ancestral businesses, if you will, is Winder Dairy. And I was involved when we brought on Dolphin Capital and Peterson Partners and rebranded from Winder Dairy to Winder Farms, and was the VP of Marketing during that rebrand to go from the old-fashioned milkman to the nation's fastest growing online grocer. So it was really kind of a fun time. In fact, now you can get Winder milk delivered to your door in not only from Logan to Las Vegas, but also in Orange County, California. So that's been a fun success to be part of. Back in the 50s, though, Grandpa Ned, they got a new milk plant, and they moved everything over. And so they said, what do we do with the old milk plant? And Grandpa was pretty bright, and he said, you know, everybody drinks milk, and they also need to eat bread every day. So they started a bakery. And so we'd deliver milk on the doorstep and also fresh baked bread. But then we had some extra fields that were some excess cow pasture land that we thought, what do we do with that space? And this is back in the 50s. And they said, well, everyone drinks milk, everyone eats bread, and eventually everyone dies. And so they decided to start a cemetery. So we have Valley View Memorial Park, the only cemetery in West Valley City out there, that cocoons the dairy yards and where all the family homes are, where I live, and Grandma and Dad and everybody leading up to the dairy. But Grandpa said, maybe our slogan should be drink our milk, eat our bread, and let us spare you when you're dead. But we haven't quite adapted that one regularly. But anyway, so it is good to be here with you. When I came on at Zions Bank about a year and a half ago, I was impressed with all that they do to give back to the community, and they have about 24 programs in Utah and Idaho that they support, whether it's co-working spaces, business incubators, accelerators, and whatnot. And I was tasked to be the point person for the bank with all those groups, as well as helping to get new business and help the startup companies come out of those. So I've put together what I call the Zions Bank Elite Entrepreneur Program for startups in Utah coming out of programs that Zions Bank supports. And how many of you were at the Student Entrepreneur Conference at eBay a few weeks ago? Okay. And then how many of you have heard of or maybe planning on being part of the Utah Entrepreneur Challenge series this year? A few more hands? Okay, highly recommend that. That takes place in the spring largely, but that's a phenomenal program. We give out a lot of Zions Bank's money at it, and you should be part of it. But anyway, we've developed this program for startups, and if you're interested, I'm going to give you my email address right now in case you want to contact me about this or anything else I go through. If you say, hey, Mike, I didn't quite get that number because of the fuzzy microphone or whatever. So my email address is mike.winder@zionsbank.com. We have Amanda writing it on the board there. Thank you. mike.winder@zionsbank.com. Yeah, it was W-Y-N-D-E-R back in the 1500s, but we've had the I in there for the last few centuries. So the Zions Bank Elite Entrepreneur Program is something where a company can come in and I connect them with a local banker. They get their business checking account going. None of this costs a penny, by the way. We plug you into the great network Zions has, and then we also give you a networking package. And the networking package is filled with freebies and discounts at 20-plus programs that support entrepreneurs around the state. It gets you a free blog post about your company with Beehive Startups. It gets you prioritized consideration into accelerators like Boom Startup, HealthBox. It gets you several months of free desk space at co-working spaces like Church and State, Impact Hub, Holodeck, Sustainable Startups. Gets you a year free membership with the Mountain West Capital Network. and all their events, a year free membership with the Leonardo, including discounted meeting spaces, museum passes, consulting with and coaching from Pando Labs and the Park City Angels, Wayne Brown Institute on how to learn to ask for venture financing. It basically gives you the gold key to the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Utah. So if any of you have a startup and are interested, I have received permission to extend this offer to anyone in Mark's class, in this group today. So if any of your startup companies now or even a few months down the road, if you want to be an elite entrepreneur, you're going to have a checking account somewhere. It might as well be at Zion's where we can help connect you to some of the best. So just send me an email when you're interested and I'll hook you up. No charge. It's a perk of being a friend of Mark's, right? So. But I want to spend the bulk of my time talking about 10 ways to finance a startup in Utah. And some of these are going to be things you've heard before, and you'll say, yeah, I've heard that before, Mike. And other things might be things that you haven't thought of before, or things that you've heard of and haven't thought of in a different way. So I'm going to call this 10 ways to finance a startup in Utah. So we're going to get through the 10, and then we'll open it up to questions. So the first way is, and these are in somewhat of an order that you should actually approach them, in my opinion. So the first way is family and friends. And you hate this one, right? You've heard it. You don't have as many friends as you think you do. All those people on Facebook aren't going to throw money at you necessarily. In fact, they're not. But some will. And so hitting up family friends is the most common way to finance a startup. But when you turn your loved ones into creditors, there's some financial risk there. So a classic mistake is approaching the friends and family before a formal business plan is even in place. If you go at Thanksgiving and you say, hey, Uncle Louie, do I have a deal for you? I'm in this entrepreneur class at UVU. I have this great idea. We're going to conquer the world and make money. And here's what it is. I need $5,000. That's not the way to go about it. The best way is if you can treat your friends and family as if you were going in to meet with an angel investor, as if you're going in to meet with a VC firm or a bank, and you have a business plan in place, and you have your financials, and you have even an exit strategy for them on a point where they'll get their money back, or how that will turn into equity. If you can go and approach it like that, you're far more likely to get something, and when you do, you're treating it as a professional relationship that isn't just money across the Thanksgiving table, right? And you also want to communicate with them on, will this be a loan? Does it involve equity? Are they going to own a piece of your company? And also remind them there's a good chance that their money will be lost. So that way, if your business does go belly up, which yours won't because you guys are all being trained by the best, but if it happened to, they're not going to be mad at you the rest of their life. They understand it's an investment. They understand that there's risk. But why would you even go to family and friends because of the weirdness that sometimes create? The reason why is a lot of these other ways that you'll go to get money, they want to see how much skin in the game you have. And not only your skin, but if friends and family are vouching for you and investing, that says a lot about your character and about your capacity. And so there is value in getting money from family and friends. All right, number 2, crowdfunding. Now the most popular crowdfunding site is Kickstarter, right? And Kickstarter can be a fun, effective way to do it, but I've seen so many companies do it wrong, or so many companies that aren't a good fit for it that try a Kickstarter campaign. And with Kickstarter, in case you don't know, you set a goal and you set a time frame. Like, I want to raise $1,500 over the next 40 days. And then you get this is where you tap into your Facebook network or others to jump on board. It's a great way to go from that family and friend intimate group that might take a big chunk of money and equity and involve that large, your group of acquaintances, your social network. But the thing about Kickstarter that doesn't work is I've seen people say, hey, I have this great business idea. We're starting it. Here's my Kickstarter campaign. We can't wait. And then they're just underwhelmed by the response. The effective ones are ones where they get something for it that matters. The classic example of one that works is the author that says, hey, if you invest in my book here, for $15, then you'll receive an advanced copy of it, sort of thing. The ones that don't work, and I think of one recently where it's like, yeah, invest in our company, and if you invest at, the $100 level, you get a T-shirt, and a $200 level, you get a water bottle. And people, as much as they love you, they still want to see something in return. So I've seen video game designers have successful Kickstarter campaigns because they have said, hey, you'll get advanced play, you'll get to help beta test this, that works. I've seen people with cool consumer products that you know are going to be hot, that they say, hey, we'll give you an opportunity at advanced purchase, and we'll apply the $25 you kick in towards that purchase. So there's some ways to have Kickstarter work. There are a lot of dumb ways to do it too. But it's worth trying. And my last advice on Kickstarter or anything like that is be realistic with your goal and walk away with a successful campaign. Because if you say, our goal is to raise $5,000 in 20 days, and you walk away with $5,000 after 20 days, you can now boast with investors and others, hey, we had a successful Kickstarter campaign. In 20 days, we hit our goal, or we hit 110% of our goal. And you can look for small wins that you can build on. Don't feel like you have to hit a home run from day one. Look for small wins that you can roll up to the next thing. All right, so you've gone to your family and friends, gotten some money. You did a little Kickstarter campaign to get some money. Next one is credit card. And you may say, well, that doesn't make sense, or duh, or why would I use that? Because a credit card, if you don't pay it off on time and you get behind, it can be risky business, right? It can damage your credit score. It can put you in a hole that you might not climb out of. But it can do the inverse of that too. If I had a startup today, I'd definitely use a credit card for a couple reasons. One, you begin to build that business credit, which is so important when you go to get other lines of financing down the road, is to show that you have the capacity to borrow money and pay it back on time and do that repeatedly. That's huge to creditors and banks at some point. So you start building, just like you value your personal credit, you want to start building your business's credit too. And a credit card is a great way to do that. Even if you use a credit card for everything you can and pay it off perfectly at the end of each month, that's still valuable because you're building credit, but then you're doing another thing. You're buying yourself cash flow. You just bought yourself 30 days of cash flow. And most entrepreneurs are going to be in a better place 30 days from now than they are today. Every time, unless you're in a downward spiral, which none of you will be because you're all awesome, right? But to use that credit card to buy yourself 30 days lag, why wouldn't you do that and build credit at the same time? The other thing is, even if you had to pay on that credit card for a little bit, sometimes that's financing that's quicker, easier, and even cheaper than other options you may have at that point in your startup. You want to be cautious with that and manage it wisely. You don't want to dig a hole you can't get out of. But it is a way to reasonably get some money, especially if you have, let's say you have a customer that's going to be paying you in 10 days, and so great, you float it on the credit card for 10 days. There's nothing wrong with that, and startups all around the world have played that game. With Zions Bank, if you're in our Elite Entrepreneur program, you actually have a choice of 3 credit cards with no annual fees. There's our Zions Bank Amazing Rewards card, where you can rack up points for cool things and whatever you want, frankly. It builds and you can leverage it into whatever purchases you want. There's the Zions Bank Amazing Cash Back, where you get 1% cash back at the end of each month of whatever you spent. And then there's the Zions Bank Amazing Rates, which always has a significantly lower credit card rate than the other cards. And frankly, if you're a startup and you know you're going to have to pay a little bit of credit card debt now and then, that's not a bad one. As of this morning, I just checked, the normal credit card rate is 14.24%. The Amazing Rate one is 10.24%. So if you can pay 10% on your money instead of 14%, that's a good thing. If you can pay 0 and just pay it off, that's even better. But if you have to have it float you for a while as you're growing your business, a 10% loan isn't the end of the world, frankly, when you don't have a lot of track record yet. So family and friends, crowdfunding, credit card. The next is the Sba Loan. You may say, hey, I am a young company, I'm not bankable. I hate that word bankable because I like to think there's some solution for you we can find. And the most common one that we find initially for companies is the Small Business Administration loans. How that works is simple. We look at you and say, would we give you a normal loan? And if you're, well, almost but not quite, that's when we bring in the power of the federal government through the SBA that bridges that gap. And so the SBA loans are great because they're less risky for the bank, therefore they're the first bank loan you're likely to get. And it's a way to get a real loan beyond the credit cards and family and friends and start growing your company. The 7A is the SBA's most popular loan program, 7A. And Zions Bank just hit a milestone, 22 straight years as being the #1 SBA 7A lender in the state of Utah. 22 straight years. We're at 13 straight years in Idaho. This is our bread and butter. You see these Zions Bank branches all up and down the state, and the number one business thing going on in there is those SBA loans. And so if you want to talk to people who are just gurus at this, who do this all day long, I have some great people I can connect you with in Utah Valley, Salt Lake Valley, and beyond that help with SBA loans. Even if your company's not quite ready for it yet, they can help you know what you need to be doing so that 4 months from now you're ready for that SBA loan or whatever time frame. So use your banker as a partner, and like I say, I can make some great introductions for you depending on where you do business and where you're located, of some people who can really help you inside the bank. Note that the these SBA loans can be up to $750,000. They can be pretty big. It's backed by a partial guarantee from the feds, and the SBA is not lending you money directly. What they're doing is they lend it to, in this case, Zions Bank, which then lends you the money. And all the owners of a business who hold an ownership stake of 20% or more are required to co-sign on SBA loans. So you got to have some skin in the game on this one. But like Elon Musk says, why not try? You're not going to starve. You're not going to be exiled. Why not try? When you go to get an SBA loan or any bank loan, we look for what we call the 5 C's. So these are the 5 C's when you go to get a bank loan. Character, capacity, capital, collateral, and conditions. So character, hey, how reputable are you? Honestly, this is where dressing up nice to go in to get that bank loan matters. This is where having a few friends and family that already believe in you and have invested in you matters. You have some character. This is where when you say, hey, I've been a student of Mark's, I know Mike Winder, we can vouch for your character, right? So character. Capacity, this is your ability to pay the loan back. If I have a little company that's clearing $100 a month and I have a loan that has a requirement of $200 a month to pay back, they're going to be scratching their heads at that. If it's $50 a month to pay back, they're going to say, okay, clearly he has the capacity there. Just keeping the math simple. So character, capacity, capital, collateral. The collateral is what is the loan secured by? And I have an important story to tell about collateral. We had one of our loan officers, Patty Black, shared this one with me. One day, Patty Black was there at a financial center here in Orem, in fact, and a frog came in to get a loan. And the frog hops in to get a loan and goes up to Patty Black and fills out the SBA paperwork, and everything looks great, and they get to question of collateral. And Patty Black says, Mr. Frog, what kind of collateral do you have? And the frog pulls out an item and sets it on her desk. And Patty's a little bewildered by this and scratches her head and let me check with my manager on this one. So she takes it back to her manager and says, hey, I've got a frog out here trying to get an SBA loan done, and for collateral, I have this from the frog. I don't even know what this is. And the manager said, why, it's a knick-knack, Patty Black. Give the frog a loan. There you go. That's the only bank joke I know. It's awful. So collateral and conditions. Conditions are just the general economic environment. If you're trying to get an energy loan right now, it could be tough because energy's in the tank. If you're trying to get a loan for a coding school, you'd be approved like this because there's such a hot demand for coding right now. So that matters too. Okay, number 5, microloans. Microloans are fun. These are if you lack credit history and you have a small startup. This is a great, and you're not bankable yet, the word I hate. This is a great thing to do. And fortunately, there's microloan places all over the country, but Utah has one of the best, the Utah Microenterprise Loan Fund. Utah Microenterprise Loan Fund. Kathy Ritchie, RICCI, is running that these days. Zions Bank contributes to it, as does other financial institutions, and it forms this pool of money where they can lend. Their website, umlf.com, Utah Microenterprise Loan Fund. They used to be able to loan only up to $25,000. As of October 1, that was bumped to $50,000. And these are great. They help especially women and minority entrepreneurs are given special consideration, as are veterans or disabled. But even able-bodied white males are able to get loans all the time from them as well. Companies like Rico Brand, Jorge Fierro started his business with the microenterprise loan. Now he's doing gangbusters. Oxford Shop Shoes, Olive and Tweed Boutique, Discreet Sports, on and on. They're a great one to go talk to. They have a free orientation where you can go and then get all your questions asked. But if you're growing your business and you have your friends and family money and your credit card, and you're saying, boy, if I had just that next $25K, we could really take this business to the next level, that's where our micro enterprise loan fund might be perfect. And so that's a good one to go to. Another one to look at is number 6, local government revolving loans. Let me introduce you to Gordon Holt with the Utah Business Lending Corporation. Gordon Holt, his email address is gordonedwardholt@gmail.com. gordonedwardholt@gmail.com. And what he does, he's a former Zions guy that has developed the Utah Business Lending Corporation, where they do niche lending. They also manage Salt Lake County's revolving loan fund. They do a lot with rural Utah, refugees, small business debt, etc. And so if you're not quite bankable yet in the traditional sense, this is another one to go to. gordonedwardholt@gmail.com. Yeah, Utah Business Lending. Another one for down this area that might be of interest is the Mountain Land Association of Governments, or MAG. They actually do lending. Michelle Carroll, let's see, I'll put you to work here, Amanda. Michelle Carroll, her email address is mcarroll, 2 R's, 2 L's, @mountainland.org. mcarroll, 2 R's, 2 L's, @mountainland.org. She handles community and economic development for Utah, Summit, and Wasatch counties. And they have a revolving loan fund that provides small business loans to businesses that can't secure bank financing yet or have a gap in financing. They've done over 42 business loans just since that program started a couple years back, and they have $1.2 million in capitalization to lend. So that's another good one. Like I say, come to the bank first, see if we can't get you an SBA loan. That'd be the easiest and thankfully the cheapest. But if you weren't quite ready yet for a bank loan, these are some other great options right here in Utah that can help. Another one that we can do is called factoring. Number 7, factoring. And I have great people inside of Zions Bank that are some of the best in the West at factoring. What factoring is we can get you money on your accounts receivables. You might have a track record of 0 or collateral of 0, but you might have some great customers. Let's say you're selling widgets to Walmart. Walmart's great, but it's going to be 90 days till they pay you. And if you're making a lot of widgets and selling them to Walmart, you're going to have a cash flow problem. Through factoring, we can actually look at your accounts receivables and say, okay, we know Walmart's good for it. They're going to pay you in 90 days, so we can get you a chunk of that money right now today for a fee. And so it's a way to leverage your ARs if you don't have any track record yet, but you have some great customers that are paying. And I use Walmart. There's a lot of smaller companies between here and Walmart that we can certainly do factoring with as well. So that's another innovative one that a lot of people don't think of. That's a way to get you some money up front and fast. Number 8, equipment leasing. Equipment leasing. A piece of Zions Bank Corporation is Zions Credit Corp. And at Zions Credit Corp, what we can do is, if you've been in business at least 1 year, there is that caveat there, so get incorporated ASAP so your clock can start ticking. If you've been in business at least 1 year, we can help you with an equipment lease. And we've seen everything from, the classic example is if you're manufacturing widgets, rather than spend 30 grand for your widget machine, let Zions Bank buy it and lease it from us, is how it works. And but we've even seen dentists that have done equipment leasing on their Porsche. And so there's some crazy things you can do with equipment leasing. It gives you a pre-qualified credit line that can be drawn upon with as little as 24 hours notice, low or no down payment. You retain your working capital for your daily needs. You preserve your cash flow. Business equipment leasing often provides a lower monthly payment than traditional financing. It's an alternative source of capital, so you're not tying up your other lines. It can also be a tax advantage because you get some off-balance sheet financing this way. So there's some tax advantages there. Some leases are accounted for as an equipment rental expense, which improves your financial ratios and profitability measures while earning your taxable income. So the equipment leasing, if you're in a business that involves equipment at all, you're crazy not to do it, in my opinion. And so if you go through all those things and you still can't get financing, don't worry. I know a guy. His name is Josh Trent, and his email is josh@myfundingstatus.com. And he can do, Josh at myfundingstatus.com. He can do credit-based funding up to $250,000 funded in 10 to 14 days. Fix and flip loans if you're into real estate. Private debt and equity funding. And when I met with him and he talked about the resources he can provide for people that aren't bankable, I said, so basically you're like the check cashing guy for businesses. And he goes, pretty much. He goes, but we play a role in the ecosystem. If people need oftentimes a bridge loan or some money until their funding comes in, or they're in a pinch and need that help, he's the guy that can plug them into different people that can help. He goes, I never turn anyone away. I always find somewhere, bad credit, no credit, where we can plug you in. Are you going to be paying a higher fee or interest rate with Josh? You bet you are. But sometimes you need that money to make that next step. There's the famous story of, who knows the name of the founder of FedEx? Good, I don't feel alone because I forgot it right now. But the famous story with him is he's in Memphis growing his business, and he got to a point where he was growing too fast and he couldn't make payroll and he couldn't get bank financing or anything else. He hopped on a plane to Vegas, threw it all on black on the roulette wheel, and the wheel's spinning. He goes, if it's red, I'm out of business and I can't make payroll. If it's black, I can make payroll and carry on my business. It hit black. And FedEx lived to fight another day and became a company. But had it hit red, you would never have heard of FedEx because he would have gone out of business so fast. So the Las Vegas roulette table is your last source of finance. Even as Josh, it worked for Fred Smith. That's his name, Fred Smith. Worked for Fred Smith. I don't recommend it, but has been done. And the last one, number 10, I don't even count that as one of my 10. So family and friends, crowdfunding, credit card, SBA loan, micro loans, local government revolving loan is 6, factoring is 7, equipment leasing is 8, my funding status, or Josh here, is 9, and number 10 is angel investor. So when you pitch to an angel investor, here's a few tips. First of all, you want to add some experience to your team. Get someone with gray hair to be an advisor, even unpaid on your board, that can be part of that team that goes in there. That's going to give some confidence to a lot of angel investors that, hey, here's some gray hairs that have endured a tough economy, and they have some know-how to help. Don't be a fad follower. Did you start your company because you're truly passionate about your idea, or because you just want to cash in on the latest trend? Angels can spot the difference and won't give much attention if it's just a get-rich-quick scheme. They'll know if there's real passion there. The third, know your stuff. Do your market assessments, your competitive analysis, your solid marketing and sales plans. Even young companies need to demonstrate that they know the market they're jumping into. And then keep in touch. Develop a plan to keep the angel investor in touch with what you're doing and formulate a way to keep them in the loop on big development. So you may say, well, how do I meet an angel investor? I pray every night and the angel investor hasn't appeared. How do you meet that angel investor? I'll tell you the best way, frankly. If you're a Zions Bank elite entrepreneur, I can take you to Pando Labs and hook you up with the Park City Angels. I can take you to the Wayne Brown Institute where you get not only behind the scenes mentoring, but you're there with the head of the Salt Lake Angels and the Tech Angels group. So I can plug you into a lot of these groups where the angels hang out and where they will hear your pitch and they will hear your plan. One of the great things I heard from an angel investor is he said, ask for money, get advice. Ask for advice, get money. If you go in there asking for money, they'll often say, well, here's some advice on what you should do, come back to me later, blah, blah, blah. If you go in there humbly asking for advice and asking smart questions, you get an angel investor excited and they put their arm around you and say, well, let me tell you what I'd do if this were my company. I'd do X, Y, and Z. In fact, why isn't it partly my company? Let me invest in you, kid. This is a good idea. So remember that. Ask for advice, get money, ask for money, get advice. And we can connect you through the introduction to Zions. We started Epic Ventures a few years back, and so Zions has a tie there as well if you're looking for venture capital funding. So those are the 10 ways to finance a startup in Utah. We've left time for questions. We have about 14 minutes or so. And so I want to hear what's on your mind. I kind of gave you some of this you'd heard before, and some of it you'll hear again. But thoughts, questions, how can I help?
You talk a lot about things that are so
Right.
forth. What are some of the circumstances or situations where you really, as the lender, you really grit your teeth and go, ooh, I don't know, maybe, but it's good, but I don't know. What are some of the red flags, or maybe really, really large yellow flags that look orange?
So I would say, hopefully your personal credit score is great. If it is totally in the toilet, that's a ding against you. It's not a deal killer, but when I talk about the 5 C's and character, your credit score is a quantifiable thing in the world of your character. So yeah, you do want to have good credit. If you have complete lack of experience, like if I say, hey, I'm a history major and I am launching this company on how to dispose of radioactive waste in the desert, I might have the lender say, I don't know if this kid could pull it off. But if I said, you know what, I grew up in the dairy grocery delivery business and I have this new idea on how we're going to do dry cleaning delivery to homes, and I know the delivery business, I've grown up in it, I can do this, then it's far more credible. So there's kind of that credibility of experience as well. If you don't have that, you can shore that up with your advisors and even a board of directors. But those would be kind of just 2 off the cuff that things to be looking for is your personal credit score and your team. Good question. Let's see, here in front.
Yes. With your program that you're offering us, do you take in for foundations as well?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a lot of great nonprofits that have joined our Elite Entrepreneur program. And one of the advisors in this is Sustainable Startups that helps work with a lot of nonprofits, as well as the Purpose Investor Network, which is brand new. They're just out of Park City. They're the Utah chapter of the Social Venture Fund. And what's interesting about this is you're seeing, in fact, they had an event where Aaron Hurst spoke. Aaron Hurst is an author. And he claims that we went through the agrarian age and the industrial age and the information age. What's coming next? And his belief is it's the purpose age. His belief is that, there's a reason 67% of MBAs say, I will take a lower salary if it's a company where I feel like I'm really changing the world and making a difference. There's a lot of foundations out there that are investing in companies out there saying, I'm okay with a lower rate of return if we're accomplishing some social good. So these companies that are either nonprofit or for-profit that are doing good by doing well are really hot right now. There's a Utah company that goes door to door, and they're a nonprofit, and they say, hey, we'll harvest your excess fruit trees, and we can it and give it to the Utah Food Bank. And they came to one of these partners and they said, can we get a donation for our charity? And they said, your problem is you're a charity. You should be a for-profit company. And they helped them flip their business model. So now they come to the door. Hey, for $50, we'll harvest all that fruit tree so you're not stepping in the plums and peaches all fall long. And we donate it on your behalf to the Utah Food Bank. Great, here's the check, get to work. And so they're now a profitable company that's still feeding people at the Utah Food Bank. You're seeing a lot of that with kind of the Patagonia model, or Tom's Shoes. Buy one pair of shoes, we donate a pair of shoes to someone in the third world that needs them. I was a judge at the Idaho Entrepreneur Challenge in Boise State a few months back for their first year, and the team that came in second there was called Vivid Roots, and they sell t-shirts, backpacks, water bottles, and donate half their profits to clean water in the third world. So they're a for-profit company, but they're accomplishing a lot of good. My favorite story is Who Gives a Crap toilet paper. True company, Who Gives a Crap. They started with the premise of we want to find clean hygiene in Africa. And 50% of their proceeds go. So they're booming as a business, but their real business, they say, yeah, we want to make money so we can continue to grow our business, but our real business is helping to bring clean water and sanitation to villages in Mali and Nigeria. So it's just another example on kind of that social thing, because it's hot right now. Greyston Bakery in Yonkers, New York, they did over $1 billion last year selling ingredients, brownies and whatnot, to Ben & Jerry's and other ice cream companies. Because what they do at Greyston is they say, hey, anyone, regardless of your background, if you're competent, we'll give you a chance to work. And so convicted felons especially have found a place to work at Greyston Bakery. How many of you have seen Ant-Man? A few of you have seen Ant-Man. Remember how he's trying to get the job at the Dairy Queen? Baskin Robbins. And they found out his criminal past and out he went. Well, Greyston Bakery is addressing that. And so all of a sudden they're having cakes made for the White House and selling $1 billion a year to Ben & Jerry's and brownies and ingredients because people say, I like that. I like that there's a company that's giving people a second chance. So there's a lot of cool things in the foundation space, the nonprofit space, and even the for-profit companies that have some social good. And so that's really hot right now. So yes is to make a short answer long.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? Yeah.
I understand that one part is getting an initial investment from a bank or from somebody else. But I also understand that it's important to keep a relationship with your banker. I've talked to several people who started companies years ago, and that was, they didn't have as many options to get money as we do today. So what would be your recommendations as far as maintaining a relationship with your banker, small bank or big bank, Ryan's Bank or Bank of American Fork or Bonneville Bank?
Okay, great question. So that relationship with the banker is important. If you view the bank as just a place to get money sometimes maybe, or a place to manage your checking account, you're missing the boat. A banker is really an opportunity to be a partner on your team, just like a lawyer, an accountant, or other people that you may surround yourself with. And the reason I say that is I know, for example, at Zions, we have not only a huge bench of experts who can help you, but that banker is really the hub and spoke that can say, oh, you need this? We know someone over here that can help with equipment leasing, to use that as an example. Or we know someone here that can help you with factoring. Or we know people in the community that can help you with X, Y, and Z. And so that community banker is so important to have that relationship. As I went and talked to alums of the Utah Entrepreneur Challenge and other things that Zion sponsors, and I said, well, who are you with as a bank? It's interesting because people are like, oh, well, I'm with Wells Fargo because my mom used to work there, or I'm at America First Credit Union because that's just where I was in college, so I kept my personal accounts were there and it's just easier. And they're really, frankly, arbitrary reasons. And then I spoke to those who were at Zion's, and they said they loved it because they said, oh, you're big enough that you can handle. In fact, it's the head of Char Poles that won a few years ago, the Utah Entrepreneur Challenge. He has these ski poles. They're like a Swiss Army knife. So you can pull it out. You can tighten your ski boots because there's a widget in there for that. There's a GoPro camera mount. And he goes, I just got back from Shanghai at a factory that Zion's Bank helped me set up through your international financing group, and they're manufacturing our ski poles for us. And so he goes, I like Zion's because you're local enough that my employees like having a branch close by, but you're big enough that you can help me with international financing, wire transfers, and all that. So I'm completely biased as a Zion's Bank guy, but regardless of what bank you go to, develop that relationship with them. Pop in and see them once in a while. They're supposed to reach out to you once in a while as well, but don't be afraid to be proactive and say, hey, here's my business plan I'm working on. What thoughts do you have? Because especially like if you're getting ready for an Sba loan, they see those applications day in and day out, and they're going to know far more than I will what little pieces there are. The other thing is use me as a resource too. If you ever have a roadblock or need an introduction somewhere in the community, feel free to say, hey Mike, I'm one of your lead entrepreneurs, how can you help me out? I need an introduction to so-and-so or someone in this industry, and we can make connections for you as well too. Okay, other questions?
Why'd you major in history?
Why did I major in history? Yeah. Easy. I knew I wanted an MBA or a JD, and they don't care what your undergrad's in, so I did what was easy for me, what I enjoyed, and what I had a lot of AP credits for, and I blew through the U in 2.5 years with my bachelor's, so it was my fast path to MBA. But I've loved it because it's another dimension of who I am besides just business, and it's to learn to research, to learn to write, to learn to look at the world in perspective.
Going back to books.
Yeah, so I have a few published books. My bestseller was called Presidents and Prophets, the relationship of the U.S. presidents and the LDS Church, that came out in 2007 and was a regional bestseller, so that was kind of fun. So it's become a glorified hobby on the side, but yeah, I think if I was going to get just a history degree, it'd be the stupidest thing in the world because I didn't have a teaching certificate with it. But I knew it was on my path to get an MBA or a JD. In my case, it ended up being an MBA. And so, yeah, I lived it.
I'm just curious because I majored in biology, I graduated in biology. How difficult was the MBA after?
When I applied for my MBA program, they said, yes, we love getting people from the College of Humanities or Sciences or other areas besides just business. I once thought that you had to be a business major to get an MBA, but there's some amazing people that I see that get degrees, especially in the sciences or a language or something, that then go on and get an MBA, and it's a helpful thing. But I also know people that get their business degrees as a bachelor and get on with life and start making money. And there's value with that too. Okay, other questions? We have about 2 minutes, right? 2-3 minutes. Any politics questions?
Are there industries that the banks typically avoid?
We tend to avoid prostitution, drugs, and shady financial lenders. You had a question there.
So if you were saying like the SBA loan, what's like the range of amount that you can get a loan for?
So the big, legally, the $750,000 is the biggest on an SBA loan.
What's the lowest?
I don't know, $1,000? I would say, though, realistically, if you're going to go through the effort, I think you want to almost hit a microenterprise loan if you're going that small. But that's a good question. I don't know. What would be the smallest our SBA guys have done? Because I hear them all the time, kind of that $25,000, $100,000 range even. But yeah, I think if you, again, have a relationship with the banker, go in and say, hey, sometimes it's not even an SBA loan. At that point, it's just a line of credit. So that's a good question.
What is the SBA's average annually?
I don't know.
No, just
The SBA's average,
not cumulatively, not the sum total, but just.
no, the average one, if I had to guess, I'd guess 100,000. 100, 150. I hear that number a lot. Okay, so I'm going to end with a story. Do I have time to end with a story? Okay, this story has nothing to do with banking, but Mark and I first got acquainted in city government, and once asked me, what's one of the most fun things you did as mayor? So I'll tell you the story. So being mayor of West Valley City was great because we have the USANA amphitheater. I could hang out with Def Leppard and the one-armed drummer backstage with my brother-in-law. And we have the Maverick Center, and I could take my teenage daughter to go see Selena Gomez backstage and hang out with Selena. And in fact, I gave her my mayor pin, and Jessica's like, what's she going to do with that? She's just going to throw it away. I said, no, she'll put it in her tour bus with all her knickknacks. But my favorite one was when Guns N' Roses were coming to town. Axl Rose, GNR, I was pretty excited. And just the day before they came, it was announced that Guns N' Roses was going to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And so I said, I'm going to give them the key to the city. That's what we do with honorary guests when they come through, the Queen Mother of Tonga and such. And so I talked to our Maverick Center guys. I said, so let them know, see if that would work. They came back. They said, that'd be great. They'd love it. But then the Maverick Center people started getting really nervous about it. And then our police people that were security started getting really nervous about it because they said, this guy Axl Rose isn't all there. He's done some crazy things in his concerts. Mayor, if you get up there on stage, we can't guarantee your safety. And they were just all wigged out about this. So we said, all right. So we said to the manager, let Axl Rose know we'll do it backstage at some point during the show. And he said, no. I'm not even going to talk to him about that. I already talked to him. He is so excited about this. He is on his limo coming from the airport. You will give him the key to the city on stage, or not at all. All right, on stage we go. So between the 6th and 7th set, they had me there by the side of the stage, and that's always fun to be the side of a rock concert. They said, okay, Mayor, go, go, go. And so it was a bit of a break with the band, and I grabbed the microphone. Hey, Mike Winder, Mayor of West Valley, and good to be with you tonight. And people start murmuring out there like, why do we got a stupid politician interrupting our concert? And I said, hey, it was just announced that Guns N' Roses were inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and we think they deserve a special honor. Who thinks they deserve it? And they went, yeah, Axl, come on out. So Axl comes out on stage. I said, Axl, I want to give you our highest honor, the key to the city. And he goes, thanks, Mayor. With this key, how late is West Valley City open? I said, for Guns N' Roses, we are open all night long. They played till 2 a.m. 2 a.m. every song. It was phenomenal. And as I was leaving the stage, he goes, gee, Mayor, I wonder if I can get out of jail later tonight with this key. So nothing to do with banking, but that's my story of giving Axl Rose the key to the city. Thank you for having me.